Within the game INFRA, there are various clues that are a part of an elaborate alternate reality game, or ARG. These clues, which don't draw attention to themselves in any way, contain cryptic information which requires the work of an entire fanbase in order to decode. The problem, however, is that even though these puzzles are plentiful, and the community has been working on the ARG since the game's release in 2016, the progress is often very slow, with months or even years going by without any significant breakthroughs. The only saving grace is the occasional clues from the ARG Puppet Master, a developer of INFRA who goes by the alias Zuntti, who has, in the past, dropped hints to puzzles the community is stuck on. The first of which was posted on the Loist Community Discord server on the 27th of October 2017, comprising an image taken in the Transformer room before the bunker, found in Chapter 7. While the image isn't too interesting, downloading the image revealed a suspicious file name, which is actually just the phrase "first letters bunker computer" written in reverse, with some added intuition to fill in the missing letters. This clue helps the community look for hidden messages on the computer terminal found within the bunker. Another such clue is this image, which he posted on the 15th of January 2018, the 2-year anniversary of INFRA's release, with the file name truth.png. At the top of the image, we can see some text in green lettering, and underneath, reading, "For, what are you looking for? The right question? The right answer? The right person?" There was also a second image, posted 2.5 months prior, on Halloween 2017, with the file name 2remaining.png, with the same first line, but with different text. The core ord in the first line of both images is likely short for correct order, since the rest of the message follows a linear number pattern of 1 to 5, indicating that this clue may be hinting at which order to go about solving the puzzles. But what are these puzzles? Number 1 is probably body message, seen on the dead body in Chapter 2, which I discussed in Part 1, and decodes to something similar to "I will share the truth if you tell the right answer to the right person." Number 2 might be referencing computer question, which I also discussed in Part 1, translating to "What connects all these?", found in the SNW bunker in Chapter 7. Number 3 was unknown at the time of when this hint was first released, but it was later concluded to be something like console answer due to a clue that was soon discovered.
The door code is 0489. I don't know what you'll find inside, so be careful.
We'll have to talk about this once this is all over.
We do. I'm sorry for not telling you earlier, Mark.
I know why your patrols were out. The Warders got them in here and activated some kind of override.
In the second image, the location in the background is the secret control room of the Blackrock nuclear power plant seen in Chapter 10, owned and controlled by the corrupt government organization Stolen Nuclear Weapons. Though everyone believed SNW stood for Stahlberg Nuclear Weapons when INFRA was first released, Obenseuer instead states that it stands for Stolen Nuclear Weapons. From this control room, the organization would control the entire facility from the comfort of their own room, to steal uranium stores to enrich and use in their covert nuclear weapons development program. In terms of gameplay, this section also acts as an alternate path for the final puzzle for INFRA, where if you had discovered 50% of the corruption documents for Act 1, 90% of the corruption documents for Act 2, and 50% of the corruption documents for Act 3, As well as watching Walter's tape and taking a photo of the crashed train in the S&W bunker, both in Chapter 7, Mark can confront Edwin, the manager of the Blackrock power plant, about the S&W conspiracy, prompting Mark's boss Paul to acknowledge his past in concealing the S&W project, and gives Mark the code to the door.
What are you hiding?
What are you talking about, Mark?
I know what happened to those missing metro passengers all those years ago. I've also seen a videotape that proves Jack Walker was being blackmailed.
You seem to know a lot of things. I'll give you that. Why didn't you ask your boss for the door code?
What is he talking about?
I should confess something. I made a great deal a long time ago. I promised to bring any information related to the SNW project to a certain someone.
I can't believe it. So that's why you wanted me to photograph all those documents.
That deal helped me to get this job, and I kept all that information to myself until someone hacked our server and we lost all the data. The door code is 0489.
But regarding the ARG, on the main control panel, several labels can be seen, each being 4 digits long and seemingly all beginning with R, with a third all being G, either with a red or a green light above them. To decode this, we can ignore the R's and G's as they most likely just stand for red and green, and focus on the unique letters and numbers for each label. Reading from top to bottom doesn't give us a readable message, but what we can do is switch between the first and second column depending on the lights. Not simply by reading the letters depending on which light above them is on, but instead following this process. Choose a starting letter in either column at the top. Then, if the light is green, go down a row. If the light is also green, append the letter seen in the same column you started with, and then continue to the next column. If the light is red, instead append the letter of the other column, then proceed to the next row. However, if the light you started with is red, then whatever column you started with should be switched to the other even if the next light is green. So, for each series of lights, we can get bunker and other, world and potentially either compute or computer. The letters M, I, D, D, L could be an implied solution, potentially meaning middle. And also Q, U, E, S, T, perhaps meaning simply quest or being short for question. If these are correct, then if we take the other digits in the columns, we get seemingly random strings. 1, 6, R, 14, D, and I, 12, 14, I, 9. These two seem similar to the codes visible on the villa woodboxes, which translated to Emily and Albert. But the way to decode these lies in the bunker computer code. As you may remember, this terminal gave us the question, what connects all these? And this phrase can actually be used as a decryption key. For example, the first number is 1, so replace it with the first letter of the phrase what connects all these, without spaces. For example, W. 6 becomes O, and 14 becomes L. This makes these strings WORLD and ISLIE, which could be the phrase world is lie, and given that this statement is 3 words, makes it a possible contender for the answer, said to be 3 words on some graffiti in Hammer Valley. Although this would be rather confusing if we assume that what connects all these is the question. But now we must return to the hint posted by Zuntti, where the 4th entry of the first line is WAS, which, for reasons that should soon become obvious, is very likely short for Wasteland, primarily because the image in the background is found in such a location. In Chapter 3 of INFRA, in the Bergman water tunnels, Mark uses a raft to traverse much of these tunnels. This raft was once owned by a man living in the Point Elias district of Stahlberg, who at some point lost this raft, or as he calls it, his dock. He put up posters urging people to call him if they were to find it, something which Mark can actually do during the events of the game in the Stahlberg Steel Administration building in Chapter 4.
Who are you? What do you want, man?
I found your dock.
Yeah, boy. Is she okay, man? Where is she? Where?
I left the dock in the tunnels near the power plant, close to the steel factory. She could use some paint, though.
I missed her so much, man. Oh, my lovely dock. I'm coming to get you back home. Sadly, man, someone burned down my cottage, but you can come to my apartment for some delicious mushroom tea.
Sure. That sounds great.
Much later on in the game, in Chapter 8, Mark makes his way to Point Elias, where he reunites with this raft, this time painted pink, with a cup of mushroom tea ready for Mark to consume. This Easter egg is its own separate map to the business district before it, called INFRA EE Wasteland. It may be tempting to assume that this is just a hallucination brought on by the mushrooms, but there is evidence that Mark has been brought to another world, known as the Other Side. In Loist Interactive's other game, Obenseuer, there are certain characters who have died or are close to death, such as Father Tobias, or the Bergman tunnel worker Mike, who can be talked to using a strange amulet and a makeshift device known as the Osrat, both found in the Dikola B2 apartment. This device brings the player into another, darker world. The deceased individuals here appear as black figures trapped within this world, where some call the realm comforting, while others call it a purgatory. The Osrat device only works when in proximity to green mushrooms, and all the dead or comatose people who can be talked to suffered from the fungal disease known as the Stahlberg mushroom virus. It is likely that these mushrooms have some kind of link to this alternate world, which is likely how Mark manages to enter the Other Side temporarily when he consumes this strong mushroom tea. The wasteland also appears very monochromatic, besides some objects which are a bright red, very similar to what is seen in Obenseuer. But what can Mark find in this other world? Well, the player has 5 minutes to explore this map before being sent back to the point where they first drank the tea. Looking around, we can find crashed trains, random boxes, school chairs, an unexploded bomb, and an assortment of other random objects. There's also a radio on the outskirts of the map that plays an unsettling sound, supplemented with Morse code, which translates to Raven, Other Side, Resur stopped, with Resur maybe short for research. At the center of the wasteland, there is some kind of radio tower, with an ominous glow emitting from its peak. At the bottom, there is a small box with a key inside which unlocks a floor hatch just a few meters away, concealing an underground room. The room seen in the clue given by Zuntti. The most interesting detail in this room is the various notes seen on the wall, with some including strange symbols, and others having cryptic messages, such as, "Every world has own laws, they just have to be correct one. God of Underground keeps everyone here. This place, outside the worlds. The border of chaos, it is this world. Without the correct laws, nothing stays together. When everything is correct, the new world is born. Where everything is born, there are no laws. You can get there if you know how. The rest of the notes contain letter number pairs, this time containing the letters A, Q, R, and T, with the numbers ranging from 1 all the way up to 40. The hint's second line is a clue on how this can be solved. What are you looking for? The right question? The right answer? The right person? Harkening back to the question on the body. I will share the truth if you tell the right answer to the right person. It just so happens that A, Q, and R on the notes represent the answer, the question, and the right person, with T being truth. The solution is similar to that of the computer terminal code, where A1 represents the first letter of the answer, and R8 being the 8th letter in the right person's name, meaning that these notes require 4 passwords in order to decode. This clue, like several others before this, did take some trial and error to compute, but given what we have learned up to this point, there weren't too many possibilities for each of these passwords, especially since the highest number of each letter gives us the number of letters in each solution. The answer, A, 9 letters, is other side, the name of the world these notes are found in, which is quite peculiar. The board in Hammer Valley suggested that the answer would be made up of 3 words, which is why world is lie was thought to be the answer. But other side and world is lie were both found in the same way, through the Reactor lights code. The question, Q, 21 letters, is of course what connects all these, found in the bunker computer code, likely the most straightforward of all these answers, also marking the second time that this term has been used as a decryption key, with the first being the aforementioned Reactor lights. The right person, R, 13 letters, is Albert Hartman, firmly proving the connection between Alex Hartman and the names Emily and Albert, which were quite dubiously derived through brute forcing, with many people even doubting that Albert Hartman was even intended. But this connection in the Wasteland is far from a coincidence, undoubtedly proving the clue's validity. The truth, T, is the longest of the codes, up to 40 letters, and there wasn't much to go off when finding this. But luckily, the previous 3 codes were enough to derive the 4th string based on intuition and pattern matching, resulting in the rather verbose phrase, "If you know it, just say it, then you get it. Red Raven." Using these, the remaining notes on the board can be decoded. Other side, not other world. You can hear them breathing where they died. Raven found it. Why so many can't find a way out to the surface. Everyone here in Stahlberg, get here. It wants to keep you underground. Ghost world connected to the wrong world. When you die, you can't get out. White masks, they know this place. God suffers, is it dead? What happened in Other Side? Was it always like this? They are all lost, stuck in that black world. Did that bomb destroy everything? How many times you have seen this black world? The machine causes it. They don't know it. Is this all just a lie? Raven was here, they tried to help. Diving suit protection. God of miners, statues and mines. They know how to get here. Was it the truth? They made one mistake. Underground city trying to get them out. This is quite a big lore dump, and with some added context from Obenseuer, we can begin to piece together many theories. The notes are clear that the other side is not another world per se, but part of our own existing one, literally another side to our world. It also seems clear from Obenseuer that the other side acts as some kind of afterlife for people dying of the fungal disease, with them appearing in the other side as black figures, which could be seen as rather similar to Morko, but excluding the mask. There is also a note that says, "White masks, they know this place," which may link back to another note seen in Chapter 8, written by a man sitting by a fire in the abandoned harbour. The man will leave through the door before you could catch up to him though, where he seemingly disappears. The note talks about a cult known as the Stahlberg Underground, stating that their members have white masks and some links to the underground city. The Obenseuer protagonist can even obtain one of these masks after completing the current extent of the game's story, stated to be worn by the Stahlberg Underground cultists. It is a common theory that Morko is one of the 7 masked men who collect ingredients to feed into the machine, ingredients which include unsuspecting homeless people, since it is confirmed that many homeless do go missing in Stahlberg, and the machine runs on humans. These Wasteland Notes float a further theory, suggesting that there could be more than 7 Morkos, and anyone infected with the mushroom virus could become one. In Richard's room in the S&W bunker in Chapter 7 of INFRA, as well as in the Tenement B storage in Obenseuer, we can find murals that resemble an Ouroboros with the head of Morko. This can be seen as further proof that Morko represents some kind of rebirth, given the Ouroboros is a symbol representing an infinite cycle of life and death, not unlike how people in Obenseuer are reborn in the other side after their deaths. If this theory is true, then it may mean that some characters previously believed to be dead or close to it may actually have some part of their soul trapped in this alternate world, such as the infamous pair Eric Kleiman and Jeanne de Berg, who died together of the disease in 1986. And also Kevin J. Hertz, the man found in Turnip Hill, who looks to be close to any possible Morkoification he could possibly endure. Mr. Hertz's model is named in the game files as Morko 003. The final thing I will talk about in regards to these notes is the Raven Research Institute, the organization seen at the end of the game, which emails Mark during the epilogue, with the email varying depending on how much of the SNW conspiracy you uncovered during the game. Whatever email you get, it is clear that this institute is actively trying to uncover the SNW conspiracy, and has done so for a while, with them even stating that there are some aspects of the conspiracy that are yet to be uncovered, even if you uncover over 90% of the conspiracy. Some of the Wasteland Notes mention this organization, such as Raven found it, and Raven was here, they tried to help, suggesting that the organization may have discovered the other side and attempted to prevent whatever disaster may have occurred here. The organization can also be linked to the machine, and by extension, the Stahlberg Underground, since a symbol of a headless raven can be seen on this machine, though the exact relationship is unknown. The machine is also known to spit out raven heads, whatever those may be. It's also worth noting that the Wasteland Notes are placed in a way that resembles the very same raven symbols seen on the machine, suggesting that someone from the Institute may have placed these here. We can speculate endlessly about these aspects to the third layer of INFRA's lore, which is still shrouded in mystery despite all the clues we have discovered. Every puzzle seems to introduce more questions than answers, more characters than fates, and more dead ends than leads. An example would be Albert Hartman. While he has been correctly identified as the right person, and besides the possibility of him being Alex Hartman's son who was given away into foster care, we still know next to nothing about this man and who he works for. We can guess that since he was young enough to have been given into foster care during the mid-80s, he was likely born around the 1970s. And there are even some theories that the body in Chapter 2 is that of Albert Hartman. And since Mark comments that the body still smells, and we can see flies and cockroaches around the corpse, he might have died very recently, perhaps in 2016, the same year INFRA takes place, where he would have been around his 40s, though I wouldn't be surprised if this theory is later disproven. Additionally, there are many codes in the ARG that seemingly do not have any kind of relevance to any other codes. What does "world is lie" mean? And does it have any relation to the 3 words relating to the answer? And if it doesn't, what does? There's also stuff that is just entirely unknown. Like, what does the 5th entry in Zuntti's clue mean? What looks to be the final thing we need to decode this branch of the ARG. It could be short for pattern, hinting that we need to find what connects the previous 4 clues. Or it may involve the symbols seen on the walls in the hideout of Elo underneath the bridge in Chapter 8. And this doesn't even include the content found in Obenseuer, which, while still in early access, does contain an intricate, though currently incomplete, storyline, which promises many answers to the abnormalities across Stahlberg, including the myth of the underground city. INFRA's world is very detailed. You can rarely find a single wall or piece of industrial equipment that doesn't have some kind of decoration or random serial number on it. Thus, discerning what is a code and what isn't can sometimes be very difficult. One example is a dartboard found in various locations across the game, with a scoreboard tallying the points between 2 players. The numbers seen on the scoreboard actually have meaning. 24, 60, 82 can be written as the date, 24th of June, 1982. The date British Airways Flight 009 accidentally flew through a cloud of volcanic ash caused by the eruption of Mount Galunggung in West Java, Indonesia, causing the engines to stall, necessitating an emergency landing in Jakarta. All 263 passengers survived this incident, further referenced on the dartboard by the other 3 numbers, such that 112 plus 154 minus 3 equal 263. The initials of the 2 players, JK and OS, also reference the real names of 2 of the game's developers. Speaking of Oskutin, Oskutin has also, on occasion, dropped hints for the ARG, primarily in the form of Discord messages comprising an assortment of numbers. On the 18th of June 2018, the first of these peculiar messages were posted, with no other context, leaving the community to attempt to decode it. The solution here was found to be to ignore the spaces and then divide the text up to the A by the value B2, assuming both of these numbers are in hexadecimal, or base 16. If this seems complicated, just remember that any number in hexadecimal can be easily converted to familiar base 10, which of course just leaves us with a simple division. Converting back to hexadecimal and further translating through ASCII into readable text reveals a word, or rather, a possible abbreviation of 2 words, Punanin Tupa, Finnish for red cottage, and funnily enough, there is a red cottage located in INFRA, specifically in the small village by the Hammer Valley Dam in Chapter 2. The cottage itself is quite inconspicuous, but the similarly red mailbox nearby does contain a binary code beneath it. The first section translating directly with ASCII to "The truth is in tunnels," and the second section being Robin. Robin, of course, is a character in INFRA who's mentioned across notes seen in the game, having been an employee of many of the companies operating in Stahlberg, You can even talk with him in chapters 7 and 8 when Mark reaches the coal-fired power station, where Robin works currently.
Hello?
Finally, dude. I've been waiting for you like... Wait, you're not Irvin. Who is this?
Mark, I was just...
Mark! This is Robin. We have a very bad situation here. There have been some power cuts in the city.
Including this power plant?
Well, not really. I was just doing some maintenance work here
And you need my help.
The phrase, "the truth is in tunnels," could possibly hint at ARG-related clues within the various underground tunnels of Starburg. Or perhaps it could be referring to the literal truth in "I will share the truth" if you tell the right answer to the right person. Beyond this connection, there's not much to work with here, and even Oskutin himself tells us that we shouldn't waste our time here. The next of Oskutin's clues was revealed on the 6th of April 2019, where many binary digits were posted in the INFRA Discord, now deleted. Converting from ASCII resulted in no discernible message, but the layout of the binary provided a clue. Every byte began with 1, which means that this is an extended ASCII table, with the higher binary values corresponding to rarer characters. Inverting the 1s and 0s provided more legible letters. This still does not yield a readable message, because, as you may have noticed, not all of these bytes actually contain 8 bits, with 5 only containing 7 bits, messing up the formatting. These 5 digits are the same, however, representing a line break, not a letter, but more an instruction to represent when to start a new line. Adding a leading 0 to these characters allows for a smooth conversion. SNW, truth, capital, subterranean, redoubt, quarry. SNW, of course, references Stolland nuclear weapons, and, yet again, truth was what we needed to look for in the Wasteland Notes. But the rest seem relatively new to this ARG, though redoubt is a type of fortress, possibly hinting that more clues to the puzzle are located in the upcoming Whiprock DLC, featuring a sea fortress on Whiprock Island. But the connection between all these words and their further relation to the ARG, if any, is unknown. We wouldn't get any further clues from Oskutin until 35 minutes later, with another 7 bytes of binary, also now deleted. The solution was similarly found by inverting the bits, but only for the bytes for which the added letter preceded the byte. This allows for a type of conversion table to be derived when the binary is converted. The first 2 bytes represent a space, and the rest translate simply. The intended message can be found by organizing the table alphabetically in the Finnish lexicon. !equals, of course, means not equal to, but the X and WR are less clear. WR may be an acronym for Whiprock, with X possibly being an X marks the spot type symbol, which could suggest that the clues or answers for the ARG are not in Whiprock. It seems clear that there is some ambiguity in the meanings of these clues, and of course, we must accept the possibility that these are just red herrings. The practice with binary is far from useless though. There are many other binary codes hidden throughout the game, sometimes in plain sight. As early as the NCG officers in Chapter 1, certain computer monitors contain a waterfall visual of green binary, no doubt popularized by the 1999 film The Matrix. But as you may have guessed, the binary can be translated column by column into text. Each column here isn't too long, only consisting of 3 to 6 bytes each. Converting simply reveals random strings with the only coherent word behind. A solution is as simple as reorganizing the seemingly random text resulting from some of the binary to create a singular string. where all the anagrams combine to create some familiar words. Possible interpretations of the text allude to the red text on the bird's information board in Hammer Valley, but this leaves the meanings of the other phrases unknown or irrelevant, unless this is suggesting that the answer, perhaps other side, has some relevance to the meta-accident. INFRA contains various books, none that are fully readable, just props to fill out the game world. One of the more notable ones is The Legend of the Stahlberg Underground, written by Kevin J. Hertz himself, firmly linking him to the Stahlberg Underground. Another book you can find is The Tunnel of Water Trees, written by an individual named Sylvia H. Raven. It was long theorized that this individual was involved with the Raven Research Institute, perhaps even the founder, and further speculation suggested that it was actually this person, whose portrait is seen in the offices of the Metal Workers Union in Chapter 6, next to that of Mikhail Rosenthal. This theory was actually confirmed to be true on the 16th of July 2021 by the Steam Points store of all things, a type of virtual storefront where you can buy customizables for your Steam profile using Steam points. INFRA-specific items were added in 2021, including a profile picture of this character with the name Sylvia H. Raven. Returning to the book, the cover has a picture of a man in a diving suit, which could potentially link to the interrogator during the fourth ending of INFRA, where Mark is executed with the machine when he tries to enter the underground city. Also, the phrase water trees is also seen on the mural seen in the cave in Chapter 2, the same mural I mentioned in Part 1, which contained other phrases such as AH, Stahlberg Underground, and Tunnel Monster. But even still, there is more to this book that meets the eye. The back cover contains the code E1S9H8C2, which is clearly related some way to the ARG, but currently the meaning behind this code is unknown. If we try and link this to the letter number pairs seen on the body code, we find that while E1 is, S9 and H8 seem unprecedented. There is an H4 in the code, but there doesn't seem to be any numbers higher than 4 or letters after H. C2 does fit the pattern for the body code, but the solution for this specific letter number pair is unknown. Although there is an asset in the breaker rooms outside the bunker, which may suggest that the answer for C2 is ocean, perhaps relating to the water trees and the diving suit. Whatever secrets this book holds, it is likely that we may be able to get our hands on it in future updates of Obenseuer. Perhaps in the bazaar. Alternate reality games often transcend the video games they are a part of, which is something that sets this ARG apart from the others. As far as we know, an overwhelming majority of clues and resources we need are found within the game files of either INFRA or Obenseuer. An exception, though, is the small amount of content found in the storefront where the games can be bought. I've mentioned before the Steam Point store, which included several interesting items, confirming the names of several important aspects of INFRA, such as the Other Side and Ugu. But another such thing is the Steam account, Raven Messenger, created on the 3rd of November 2019. Level 0. Not a private account, just one with no owned games, reviews, or screenshots, but with one added friend, Zuntti himself. This account doesn't accept any other friend requests or direct messages. But could it be a real-world parallel to the Raven Messenger seen in INFRA's epilogue? And will it perhaps end its years-long dormancy if progress is made on the ARG? But for now, it seems nothing of use can be gained from investigating this account. This last section of the video will cover the types of clues which I believe have the most promise of furthering the investigation of this ARG, which are currently incomplete or inconclusive. The Wasteland Notes, as mentioned before, contain more than just text. Some contain very strange looking symbols and diagrams, possibly symbolizing the separation between our world and the other side, with another similarly representing the concept of a counter-Earth existing at Earth's third Lagrange point, a concept appearing throughout ancient philosophy as an antichthon of similar size, existing to balance their understanding of the cosmos. If we leave this small room and instead view the wasteland from above, we can see these symbols etched into the surface. In Chapter 8, inside a bascule bridge connecting Castle Rock Island with Point Elias, you can find a hidden den, complete with a mattress, small table, and various drawings taped to the wall. This is the hideout of a young girl named Elu, or Elu Bloomer if unused dialogue from the prototype version of Obenseuer is to be believed. The hideout contains strange drawings depicting Elo being led to the underground city by what looks to be Morco, but also several sets of blue and green symbols seen on opposing walls. Among them, the familiar type of spiral also seen in the wasteland. It is possible that the final section of Zuntti's clue, possibly short for pattern, may reference this iconography. Whether or not these are symbols representing lore-related aspects, or some kind of code, their appearance here, as well as the wasteland, is certainly amiss, and definitely worth investigating. Similar to the letterbox I discussed in part 1, there is an asset which can be found in various places across the game, with this one having the verbose name Table 32DGFR, comprising two sections, a table consisting of 3 and 4 digit strings, and a second, just text. This text is just lorem ipsum, gibberish resembling Latin, often used as a placeholder or as example text in graphic design, so I am confident in saying that nothing worth investigating can be found here. The various 3-digit numbers following a letter on the other half of the board seem far from random. Often in cryptography, many substitution ciphers can be decoded easily by looking for patterns from the language in the original message. For example, if you have a large enough sample, the most common letter found in an encoded message, whatever it may be, very likely corresponds to E, if the original message is in English, with E, of course, being the most common letter in the English language. Also, if two letters are often seen paired together more than others, they likely correspond to that language's digraphs. I mention all this because patterns like these can be found in Table 32DGFR, including that U657 will only follow T213, and K345 is only ever preceded by T213, along with several other rules. Since a certain 4-item long pattern appears twice, with a third appearance containing just the first 3 items, it can be speculated that these correspond to the words then and the, since these two are common words that follow this pattern. The top row of this table also follows a linearly increasing number pattern, all following GD, though the exact meaning behind this acronym is unknown. but it is likely that understanding what it represents may help us in uncovering the meaning behind this asset. This ARG has existed for the better part of a decade, but many of the currently solved clues I have discussed were found and answered no later than 2018. It would be an understatement to claim that progress has been slow these past several years, with many growing frustrated with this puzzle, their faith in an eventual overarching solution being diminished, piece by piece, as the months progress without substantial progress. Though in the past year or so, new content set in this universe has slowly been growing in the form of updates to Obenseuer, introducing us to new characters as well as some old ones, and of course, new puzzles to solve, all supplemented with a storyline heavily focused on the occult, already introducing us to concepts such as there being different layers to the other side, and how cults such as Stahlbug Underground influence the lives of the Obenseuer residents. I can think of no better time for renewed interest in the alternate reality game. Not just because of the new puzzles, but also because of the new fans to this franchise introduced through the success of Loist Interactive's tenement managing RPG. So if any of this seems interesting to you, please do consider offering your contributions to furthering the investigation into this long-running mystery. Thank you for watching, and bye.